So often in horror games, helplessness and vulnerability are used as a thematic element to evoke a constant state of fear. You're never given the right tools to prepare or defend yourself from your impending doom, and even when you are, you scarcely have the supplies to mount any reasonable offense. It's a feeling we've all become too familiar with when it comes to horror titles. Now what if, for once, you were in control? You were prepared. Hell, even trained to deal with life-threatening situations. What if you were the very thing someone should fear? Could something still scare you? Hi, I'm your host Z-Man, and welcome to The Stash. Today we'll be talking spoiler-free about Albert Ortiz's Cold Shot. Right off the bat, Cold Shot sets a tone not seen in many horror titles. Our protagonist is an unnamed hitman driving to their latest target. They lament they'd rather be at home relaxing, but work is work and somebody has to do it. And tonight their target is Spencer York at number 12 Saratoga Street. We're spared any more details as to who this man is or what he's done to deserve a hit, but it doesn't matter to us. We're not judge and jury. We're simply the executioner, and we can't fail our task. As the player, it stands to reason this isn't our first rodeo, and the taking of another's life is simply a transaction, so best get to work. And while Cold Shot is a short title, clocking in about 30 to 45 minutes in runtime, it's power play of control over the situation that really shines in this title and makes it unique. As the game starts, we're positioned at the top of a hill. Our rifle is set up and trained at a good vantage point of number 12 Saratoga Street. A brief scan of our surroundings through the scope, and it's easy to spot our target sitting calmly at his laptop conveniently in front of a sprawling section of windows. One quick squeeze of the trigger, and the deed is done. Only thing left to do now is confirm the kill. But as we descend down a well-worn path and into the house, things become a bit more complicated. What if we weren't given all the necessary information and unknowingly played right into someone else's plan? What I like about Cold Shot is its straightforward and clean approach, and after experiencing the game, the title says more about our state of mind than the actual narrative we experience. We feel clean and methodical, just as how I'd imagine our character would feel in this situation. For reference, imagine Marcus, played by the brilliant Willem Dafoe in John Wick. The controls are standard for an FPS minus the usual option to run, which admittedly at first I didn't like, but as I continued it actually felt like a calculated character-driven choice. We also don't have any inventory to manage aside from ammo, which you'll need to collect throughout the house and the surrounding areas, and the occasional key or tool, but items are used almost immediately, so what you see is what you get. The graphics are by choice pared down and somewhat bit crushed into a kind of neo-noir feel, and while one of the character models leaves a bit to be desired, the creatures are actually pretty gruesome and even have some cool body horror elements. The atmosphere has a moody darkness, with the lighting adding a nice polish not often seen in games of this length and style. The music sets a nice tone, and I'll definitely give extra credit for some of the very disturbing sound effects you'll hear throughout the experience. At its core, this is a survival horror experience with a jump scare or two and one puzzle that I believe is probably the weakest part of the title, but since it's such a small part of the experience, it didn't personally detract from my overall enjoyment. What surprised me the most was the supernatural elements to the storyline that the game introduces as you discover the plot through memos and a few journal entries. And personally, on my first playthrough, I missed a small psychiatrist note that I found on my second playthrough that actually recontextualized the entire narrative and turned what I thought was a rather sad story into something much more sinister and twisted. However, I would suggest scouring the house for every memo you can on your first playthrough so you can get the whole story, as it really digs into the quickly deteriorating mental state of our target and better illustrates the events that led up to this night in the first place. And with the house in the state that it's in once you enter, you'll definitely be searching for answers as to what exactly you've gotten yourself into, and how this may be quite a bit different from our other hits in the past. Now, because we never do spoilers here on The Stash, I won't say much more than that about the plot, but what I will say is upon entering the house, our protagonist soon discovers his role to play in all of this was much more planned than they knew, and will have to utilize our deadlier skills to finish our job and get out alive. Cold Shot is a brilliant little experience that I thoroughly enjoyed, but admittedly it left me wanting more. The controls can be a bit clunky at times, and as I stated earlier, the puzzle section was definitely weak. However, none of this stopped me from giving it an almost immediate second playthrough. In the future, I'd love to dig deeper not only into the lore of this experience, but also the setting and its protagonist. I hope the game's developer has plans to expand either of these themes further in the future, because while I think this title definitely stands alone on its own merits, I'd love to see more chapters in, let's say, a series. If you're looking for a short survival horror experience with a unique setting that turns our usual role as the player on its head, this is definitely a game you should check out. And for only $2, wouldn't you like to see who's really in control? Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed yourself, please consider subscribing to the channel. We put out new reviews every Friday. And if you'd like to come hang with me and watch me play some of these spooky games, head on over to twitch.tv/ZmanStash. Z-Man, S-T-A-C-H-E. Stay spooky, and I'll see you soon.